Section 25 of Journal of the Reverend Francis Asbury, Volume 2. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Brian Keenan. Tuesday, 23. I preached with liberty, but on Thursday night I had a powerful temptation before I went into the church, which sat so heavily on me that I could not preach. Yet I trust I was kept from sin. My sleep is so little that my head becomes dizzy and distresses me much. 4 hours sleep in the night is as much as I can obtain. We concluded our work and observed Friday as a day of abstinence and prayer, and had a good time at our love feast. Sunday, 28. Preached at 10 o'clock at Brooklyn. In the afternoon at the new church on Woe to Them That Are at Ease in Zion. I ordained 7 deacons and 5 elders, and in the evening at the old church I preached again. We had the best time at the last, at least it was so to me. All day I was straitened in my throat and in my heart. We collected $250 for the relief of the preachers in distress. This has been a serious week to me. Money could not purchase the labor and exercise I have gone through. At this conference it was resolved that nothing but an English free day school should be kept at Cokesbury. Monday, 29. I did not sleep after 3 o'clock in the morning. Came to the boat at 7 o'clock, but could not get across till 1 o'clock, which, to my no small grief, prevented my attending my appointment on Staten Island. New Jersey, Tuesday, 30. Rose at 3 o'clock. Set out at 5 o'clock and rode 42 miles to Milford and preached, but I found this heavy work. Wednesday, October 1. I had some life in preaching at Cross Week's meeting house. I then came to Brother Hancock's and took sweet counsel with my old friend, whose wife I received as a member of society 22 years ago. I was in suspense about going through Philadelphia, lest I should not reach Baltimore in due time. Now report saith that they have stopped the Baltimore stage on account of the malignant fever, which rages powerfully at the point. There is a great stir among the people concerning the Western insurrection. The people have risen up against government on account of the excise law relative to the distillation of spirits. A number of the militia are called out. Thus trouble comes on in church and state. O my Lord, give us help, for vain is the help of man. Thursday, 2. I came to Burlington, and as I had not had a day to myself for some time, I took one now, to read, write, and fill up my journal, etc. I feel for the church and continent, but the Lord sitteth above the water floods, and remaineth a king forever. I preached at Burlington, and the people were serious. Pennsylvania, Saturday, 4. Brother M. and myself came to Philadelphia, and on Sunday 5 I preached 3 times, and was not a little fatigued with this day's labor. I felt assisted and had some openings in preaching. Monday, 6. Our conference began, and our matters were talked over freely. Our session continued until Friday, by which time I felt tired of the city, and had a desire to be on horseback. I felt liberty in preaching to the citizens, and indulge some hope of a revival of religion among them. Saturday, 11. Rode 35 miles to Sister Grace's, at Coventry, who, with her daughter and granddaughter, is, I trust, happy in God. I visited this house 20 years ago. Sister Grace, when in a delirium, was singing and talking about God. I spent a solitary Sabbath at her house, and was happy in speaking at her door, she being sick. Monday, 13. Brother Cook and myself had a heavy ride of nearly 50 miles to J. H.'s, which we accomplished by traveling a little in the night. Tuesday, 14. I preached at Bethel, on Back Creek, and on Wednesday, 15, crossed Elk River and came to quarterly meeting at Hart's Meeting House. I spent the evening with my dear son in Jesus, D.S. I cannot give him up. Maryland, Thursday, 16. Crossed Susquehanna and came to Cokesbury College. I found it £1,200 in debt, and that there were between £500 and £600 due us. £300 of what we owe ought now to be paid. Saturday, 18. We came to Perry Hall. The preachers were afraid to go into Baltimore, but the brethren from there came out to calm their fears and invited them in. I have been hurried, and have not as much time for retirement as my soul panteth for. Yet I desire nothing but Christ. Monday, 20. We rode to Baltimore, and in the afternoon opened our conference. We had about 50 preachers, including probationers. Our business was conducted in peace and love. Myself and others being unwell, we sat only 6 hours in the day. Tuesday, 21. I gave them a sermon on Exodus 32:26. We had a list of names from Fairfax who required an explanation of a minute in our form of discipline relative to the trial of members, inquiring whether the select members were as witnesses or judges and had power to vote members in or out of society. Section 8, page 56. We answered them. Our collegiate matters now come to a crisis. We now make a sudden and dead pause. We mean to incorporate and breathe and take some better plan. If we cannot have a Christian school, that is, a school under Christian discipline and pious teachers, we will have none. I had peace of mind, but not much rest. Sunday, 26. We had a comfortable love feast, but were prevented from attending our other meetings by the excessive rains. The next day I came to Elk Ridge, where I saw, after 22 years' labor, a well-designed frame of a new house for public worship. A few good women are trustees. The storm prevented me from having a congregation here also. Came to J. Holland's, where I had a few hearers, and had a comfortable time. It was like paradise regained among the old Methodists. Virginia, Thursday, 30. Crossed the Potomac at the mouth of Goose Creek, and came unexpected by the brethren to Leesburg. Thence we journeyed on through Prince William and Fauquier counties. We passed Germantown and came along Rogue's Road to Norman's Ferry on Rappahannock. After a disagreeable journey, and being exposed to uncomfortable weather, on Tuesday the 4th of November, we came safe to Father Kobler's in Culpeper County. Thank the Lord, there is here and there a house for God. At Father K's I had many women and but few men to hear. Some of the men are gone to war, some to their sports, and some have no desire to hear. We rode 10 miles to Brother Fry's. After a long absence of 10 years, I am here again. My mind is in great peace, and the preachers and people appear pleased to see me. I learned that about the month of June last died the great politician, Richard Henry Lee, of Westmoreland County, one who took an active part in promoting the independence of the United States of America. Oh, when will liberty be extended to the sable sons of Africa? We trust the happy period will come, when universal light shall shine through all the earth, and Jesus shall reign, where'er the sun does his successive journeys run, his kingdom spread from shore to shore, till moons shall wax and wane no more. Thursday, 6. I had some life, and there was a small stir on the minds of some at Fry's, where we had a crowd of preachers and people. Friday, 7. Crossed one of the south branches of Rappahannock, called the Rapid Ann, and came 30 miles to J. L's in Louisa County. Saturday and Sunday, 8-9. Attended the quarterly meeting at Lastly's Meeting House. We had a large congregation, a quickening sacrament, and life in the love feast. I feel it necessary to retire and humble myself before the Lord. I have been crowded with company, and have had much talk, and I find a solitary walk very agreeable. I attended a few appointments in Hanover and Goochland counties. and on Saturday 15 came to the city of Richmond about 5 o'clock and preached to a few people in Mr. Parrott's storehouse. Sunday 16. We came to a church near Brother B's, where were gathered many people, among whom were some sons of division. Here were many pale faces, and, as I was told afterward, some who had been making solemn promises in their affliction wondered how I should know and speak so pertinently on that subject. Thence we came to Brother I.M.'s in Chesterfield, and the next day crossed Appomattox and Nottoway rivers, and reached to B. Jones in Brunswick County, on our way to Brunswick Quarterly Meeting at Merritt's Chapel. It was rather a dull time, although I had some freedom in speaking, and we had a good love feast. Saturday and Sunday, 22-23. Attended a quarterly meeting at Jones's Chapel in Sussex County, where we had many people. I preached on Deuteronomy 9:12, too applicable to many of these souls. The rumor of the smallpox being at Petersburg, and only 10 or 12 out of 70 or 80 of the preachers having had it, caused us to think of holding our conference at Sister Mabry's in Greenville County, where there are 15 or 16 houses that will receive and entertain the preachers. After sending Brother Hutt to Petersburg, it was, by a majority of the preachers present, judged most prudent to hold the conference at the place just mentioned. Monday, 24. About 30 preachers were collected together. I am crowded too much for my head and heart. When I sit and hear people talk on unprofitable subjects, it clouds my head and grieves my spirit, even if I say nothing. Tuesday, 25. We opened our conference and had great siftings and searchings, especially on the subject of slavery. The preachers, almost unanimously, entered into an agreement and resolution not to hold slaves in any state where the law will allow them to manumit them, on pain of forfeiture of their honor and their place in the itinerant connection, and in any state where the law will not admit of manumission, they agreed to pay them the worth of their labor, and when they die, to leave them to some person or persons, or the society, in trust, to bring about their liberty. After raising and applying what money we could, which was about £50, we calculated that 1/4 of the preachers at this conference had received for their salary the past year about £10, 1/2 from about £12 to £15, and 1/4 their full quarterage, $64. We had great peace, and not one preacher objected to his station. We sent an apology to our brethren in Petersburg for not having held conference there, according to appointment, for reasons already assigned. We were greatly obliged to our friends in Greenville for accommodating the conference. Men and horses were well entertained, all for love. Monday, December 1. I rode 27 miles, and on Tuesday, too, I preached at F.B.'s, 12 miles from Petersburg. Wednesday, 3. Came to J. Smith's and had a comfortable season. Brother S. has been on the verge of eternity, and was blessed with delightful prospects of glory, but the Lord has raised him up again. Thursday, 4. Came to Graves Chapel, very unwell. Here lived Brother Lewis Lloyd, who left this world this year. He was an old preacher, and professed perfect love 15 years before his death, and finally departed in the triumphs of faith. Friday, 5. I preached at Rivers's chapel, and made it 20 miles by the time I reached Brother Petham's in Greenville. I was heavy in body and spirit. I am not conscious of having sinned, yet I suffer on account of the people. I delighted myself in reading some of Doddridge's sermons to young people. To the young persons present, I preached at Brother P.'s on Saturday, and on Sunday 7 rode 28 or 30 miles to Brother Paup's on Rose's Creek, where I enlarged on Peter's Fall. Our burdensome stone, Ebenezer, now gives us some trouble and care. If we can employ good men, keep up discipline, and maintain credit, it may come to something. Monday, 8. I performed the funeral rites of Sister W. on Waukee Creek, Brunswick County. We had a full house of unfeeling people, and the word of the Lord was a burden. I opened the Bible on Jeremiah 14:10. Let anyone read it as an awful portion. It may be it is as true to these people as it was to Israel. I had a meeting with the trustees of Ebenezer School. Matters are very discouraging. People in general care too little for the education of their children. Tuesday 9. Preached at Williams's meeting house. These are a poor people, not impoverished with slaves. But they have a good meeting house, with a glass window behind the pulpit, so that we can see to read without raising a shutter and receiving all the wind that comes, though this is in Lunenburg County, near Mother Ogburn's, where we used to have our melting seasons 20 years ago. We dined with the gracious aged people, and in the evening crossed Meharen and came to S. Holmes's, an ancient stand in Mecklenburg. Next day I preached at Salem, where there is the best house we have in the country part of Virginia. In this neighborhood there has been a society standing for 21 years. Rode in the evening to Brother Sped's, rich and full, and a friend to freedom. Thursday 11. Preached and administered the sacrament at Youngs's chapel, and came in the evening to T. Jones's. Dear Sister Jones is gone to rest, after 2 years of deep affliction. She has had a painful journey through life, but her persecutions and troubles are now at an end, and heaven will compensate for all. She made choice of Job 3:17 for her funeral text, and with great deliberation disposed of her property. I preached her funeral on Friday 12th, and found it a serious day to me. I never saw her more than twice or thrice, and we have interchanged a few letters. She was doubtless a woman of sense, vivacity, and grace. She wrote to admiration, all in raptures. She would pray in any place, and before any people. She reproved with pointed severity, and sung with great sweetness. North Carolina, Saturday 13. We crossed Roanoke and came to Mr. Smith's in Granville County. On Sunday 16th, crossed Mountain and Grassy Creeks, and came to Brother Owens's, whose wife is a true daughter of D. Grant, my dear old friend in Georgia. He was among the last fruits of that great man Mr. Davies, when he labored in Hanover, in Virginia, 40 years ago. Monday 15. Crossed the head streams of Tar River, which are only small branches, and rode on to Ars, where I had an appointment, and found I had another 25 miles forward at Ells. So I left Brother C. to fill up my place, and went forward to the latter, where I preached to about 200 people. I feel weak in body and mind, yet find my soul stayed upon God. Still onwards I go, fainting yet fighting. Thursday 18. I have a long journey to Charleston, South Carolina, and but 13 days to perform it, having appointed to be there the 1st of January. Friday 19. We rode 25 miles through a powerful fall of rain, but we wrought our way through the swamps, floating and sinking as we went. Saturday 20. It snowed as powerfully as it rained yesterday. However, we set out for Salem about 9 o'clock, and forded 2 creeks, but the third we swam. Brother Ward went in, and after a pause I followed, but being cloaked up, my horse nearly slipped from under me. One foot was properly soaked. I walked about 1 mile and rode another, and reached the town about 12 o'clock, just as they were ringing the bell. Feeling the want of a fire, I went to the tavern, but I found but one fireplace there. I sat down with the company and dried my feet a little, until my companions came along. I have need of power, and I am accused of having too much, to stand such days as this. My soul is kept in peace and communion with God, and, through grace, I will not murmur at my sufferings whilst the salvation of souls is my end and aim. We found a home at Father Hill's, from Maryland, about 3 o'clock, having ridden 19 miles today and 30 yesterday. I was thankful for a house and friends and an opportunity of putting into port. It is a comfort to remember there remaineth a rest for the people of God. Sunday 21. I came to Cokesbury School, and after preaching on 1 Corinthians 15:58, I rode down to Brother Charles Caton's. Here a few souls have been brought to God since I was in these parts in May last. Monday 22. We were detained some time at Long's Ferry by a wagon and a number of horses. Mrs. entertained us very kindly, and her husband gave us a hearty welcome when he came home and found out who we were. It was expected by some that I should preach at Salisbury, but I did not. So we rode on and reached the Widow B.'s about 8 o'clock at night, having ridden 30 miles. Tuesday 23. We set out at sunrise. The morning was cold and frosty. We rode 10 miles and fed at A's. Thence we hasted 25 miles to J.R.'s, took a late dinner, and rode to W.R.'s, making upwards of 40 miles. Next day we had to swim Rocky River. We then passed Newtown and made it 30 miles to Jackson's. Thursday 25. Christmas Day. We changed our course and took the Grand Camden Road to Great Lynch's Creek, 30 miles. When I came to Mr. Evans's and told my name, I was invited to stay, and it was well for us that we did. Friday 26. I came off about sunrise, and made 40 miles to Publius James Rembert's. I was hungry, sore, and very low-spirited. Here we found a warm house, comfortable table, which was very acceptable, good bed and fire, with very kind friends. Lord, dispose us to humility before Thee, and bless our benefactors. James Rogers and Samuel Cowles were my faithful attendants. I hear my friend John Hughes of Charleston is dead. From what I learn of him in his last illness, I trust the dear old man is gone safe. William Adams and Captain Darrell of the same place have been cast away and drowned. Strange changes take place in a very short time. O my God, help me to be each moment on my guard, ready for death and judgment. The land we came through yesterday is poor, and but thinly settled, a plantation once in 3 or 4 miles. The long-leaved, lofty pines have a grand appearance. Sunday evening 28. Rode after preaching to Brother Bradford's. Monday 29th to Bowman's. Tuesday 30th we had to wrestle with Santee Swamp for 3 hours, having to wade the flat ground then under water. But through mercy we got safe over at last. We hasted on and came in the evening to the house of a very kind Frenchman who entertained us gratis. Wednesday 31. Myself with the main body of the preachers came into the city of Charleston. I felt faint and unwell after the fatigues I had passed through on my journey. Thursday, January 1, 1795. Being New Year's Day, I was called upon to preach, unwell as I was, which I did on Psalm 90:12. We entered on the business of our conference, and continued until Wednesday 7th. We had preaching every night during the sitting of conference. It was the request of the conference that I should preach them a sermon on Tuesday night, with which I complied, and made choice of Jeremiah 23:29-32. In times past I have endeavored to keep on traveling all the year, but I now judge it meet to stay in Charleston a little longer and then take the field. Yet it is with fear and trembling. Sunday 11. Brothers I, C, and G being about to leave the city, I gave place to them to perform the services of the Sabbath. I heard part of a discourse by Mr. Furman on partial and total backsliding. I thought he spoke well, and that it was an excellent sermon. I doubt if he had more than 70 white hearers. A vast number in the city do not attend to the worship of God anywhere. Monday 12. The remaining members of the conference left the city. Brother Bruce and myself must now lay our shoulders to the work. I have my feelings and fears about staying in Charleston, but grace is sufficient. I wish to give my all to God, and whether I read, write, preach, or visit, to do it all to His glory, and to employ my precious time profitably. And am I yet alive, with death so near? How many of my friends in this city and in other places are gone into eternity? I hear very little from the preachers in the North. End of section 25. Recording by Brian Keenan.